Hello beautiful friends, I am happy to be here with you today with another project for the Cut to You design team. Today I'm actually working with something a little bit special. We have all been sent a package of the brand new Fab Foils adhesive backed foil sheets from Spiegelmom Scraps. I'll leave a link to that store down in my description box below if you want to check these out. But they come in a 6x12 package and you get 3 sheets in each package. I have actually already used a couple of these. I have another project that I've worked on separately and they're a really fun product to work with. As you can see, super shiny, which you're getting all the glare from my filming lights here. Super shiny, really easy to work with in the silhouette. Today I have created some butterflies by adhering the entire 6x12 sheet onto some white cardstock and then running it through my silhouette cameo to cut out these butterflies. And this is the stacked butterflies cut file from Cut to You. Now what I will do is I'll leave a link in my description box below to a fantastic tutorial that Sarah Scraps has recorded on how to use these in the cameo in this way. So I'll leave the link to that below. I won't reinvent the wheel. Go and check that out if this is something that you're interested in. So as I said, I'm using the stacked butterflies cut file and I have cut out multiples of each of the sizes, and the outline is in that gold foil, the Fab Foils from Spiegelmom Scraps. And then I have cut some backing pieces from some cardstock. The collection that I'm using today is More Than Words from Cocoa Vanilla. This is definitely a collection that I have been hoarding. I don't even think I've made anything with this collection so far. So I'm really looking forward to breaking into this. And I'm going to be scrapping this beautiful photo of my daughter, which was taken by a friend of mine on an evening at a beach late in 2020. So that's it for the intro. Let's hop on fast forward and see this one come together. Okay, to begin with, I'm just quickly showing you here how I have matted a piece of white cardstock onto some pattern paper, run it through my sewing machine and roughed up the edges. And then with each of those butterfly stacks, I have attached the gold foil outline to the patterned paper backing by running it through my sewing machine and adding, I think I added about 3 rows of stitching just down through the body of each of the butterflies. That adds lots of texture, and if you've been watching any of my videos, or if you have watched any of my previous videos, you will know that I am definitely somebody who loves a good bit of stitching on the layout, but it also means that the wings of that top butterfly are free to and loose, which gives them a little bit more movement and really does add to the visual interest of the overall page. So I prepared those butterflies. I've just popped them off to the side now while I work on some layers behind my photo. I'm keeping it relatively simple. You will see that I have roughed up a couple of the edges using my distressing tool, which I think is probably about due to be replaced now. It's just not it's not as gentle as it once was, which I know seems like a strange thing to say about a distressing tool, but I'm finding that my papers are getting more sort of torn a lot more, so I'm on the hunt for a new one, but they seem to be a little bit difficult to find at the moment. So I've just chosen a few different pattern papers, I think from the 6x8 paper stack and also from one of the cut apart sheets on a 12x12 patterned paper, and I'm just layering those up. I've got some of the soft pinks, I've got a floral piece, and I'm just keeping the layers nice and close to the photo, so not particularly thick, because I don't want the although I want the focus to be on the photo, the butterflies that I'm now placing around the page are definitely the standout feature of this layout. So I don't want to make the photo or the cluster of layers behind the photo too busy and make it too heavy, because it will be too much for the eye when you're looking at this page. So my plan was, and I had this idea in my head before I'd even started on this page was to have my photo sitting down at the bottom corner, and then to have the butterflies almost as if they are flying off away from the photo. So I played around with the placement of the butterflies around the page until I was happy with the balance of where they were placed. And now what I'm doing beneath my big head, which you can see, is I've got a pencil and I'm just tracing what would be some trails, taking a quick photo so I can remember where I had those butterflies placed, and just using a pencil to lightly draw across my page some butterfly trails. And now what I'm doing is just heading off to my little stash of sewing supplies. I purchased this piercing tool online because I'd seen someone using something similar, and it looked easier, but it's actually not. It's a bit tricky to use because I'm holding on to the actual metal piercing stick, and it's not super comfortable. So I'm going to come back in with my Tim Holtz piercing tool, and I am just going over those pencil lines and roughly eyeballing the distance of each of the holes that I'm piercing. And then I have erased the pencil line and taken that off camera and hand stitched each of those using a soft pink. It's quite a fine embroidery thread that I used there. So now I have my little butterfly trails ready. I am happy to stick down my photo. So you can see that I have also added a layer of tissue paper and a piece of, it's just some packaging cardboard that I have kept aside for things like this, and just to give the photo some dimension off the page. Now I'm ready to start sticking these butterflies down, and I am adding small dots of foam to the outside of each of the wings, and then a little bit of my wet adhesive, which is the Art Institute glitter glue, just to the body of the butterfly. Because some of these butterflies are quite big, and because I do have that top gold foil layer loose, I don't want to add too much dimension to the wings to the outside. So the foam dots that I'm using, they are quite thin or quite low in profile, so it's just enough to give it a little bit of lift off the page, but not enough that they are going to really stand up and add a heap of bulk to the layout, which is something that I am more mindful of these days, just considering storage and album space. Where I am here in Australia, it is becoming increasingly more, I won't say difficult, but expensive to source scrapbook albums, 12 by 12 albums. The average, if I was to buy them from a supplier here in Australia, where they are in fairly short supply, I think I'd be paying about $50 to $60 per album. And I know that I can purchase them online from stores in the US, but then shipping gets very expensive. So I'm almost at the point where I have run out of albums, and I'm starting to think about how I'm going to address that situation without spending a small fortune. Let me know in the comments below, if you're in Australia, where do you source your 12 by 12 albums from? What's your approach? How do you get them? Or are you a bit like me and not sure what you're going to do moving forward? I'd love to hear your thoughts. So while I've been chattering away there, you've seen me trim off the excess pieces of thread from each of those butterflies. I did leave it loose around the bodies, and I've just trimmed it down a little bit so that they're not quite so long. I have also added my journaling, which I have typed up on my typewriter, cut into strips, and then adhered down to the bottom left of the page in that bit of white space that's there. And I am using some of these thicker alphas. They are gold foil, and I believe I've used the rose gold foil on these ones. Not quite sure. I wish I had half a dozen packets of these thickers. They're so versatile. So my title just says, "May you fly," and this is another layout where most of my journaling I grabbed a quote, but I have added a little bit of my own personal thoughts to the end of it as well. Now, I fussy cut some butterflies out from one of the pattern papers, and I'm pretty sure I cut these from a 6x8 paper stack pattern paper. So they're quite small, but I wanted to just fill in some of the spaces between the large stacked butterfly cut file. butterflies, and just fill in some of those spaces. And my original plan was to just scatter the butterflies around, and what you can see me doing here is adding some foam to the wings. Now with these smaller butterflies, because they are just a single layer and because they are quite small, I have used some foam squares that are thicker than the foam dots that I used for the larger butterflies. I'm just cutting each of those foam squares in half because they were too big for the butterflies, and I'm taking the same approach. So the foam's going on the outside of the wings, and then I'm just going to use a little bit of wet adhesive through the body to stick that down to the page, and that gives these tiny little butterflies lots of movement. And in fact, if you have a look at that butterfly that's on towards the bottom left, you can see how much dimension has been created by that foam just purely from the shadow that's being cast there coming off my filming lights. So as I said, my plan initially was to just scatter these around the page. I do have that one larger butterfly, but I'm not sure if that makes it on. I don't think it does. But I will come back and do something else with those butterflies once I'm finished with my little embellishment clusters. So this seems to be my go-to for embellishing at the moment. Is I like to create just small little clusters on opposing corners of my photo. And yeah, that's what I'm doing this time as well. Bottom left and top right, I have picked a couple of the little floral die cut ephemera pieces from the ephemera pack, and I'm just going to layer those up on the corner. They're so soft and so pretty, and just exactly what this layout needed. Now for my date, I had stamped it onto one of the label stickers, but I really struggled to figure out where I wanted to put that down. So I think in the next couple of minutes, you're going to see me really fiddle around trying to work out where I want to put that, and it does end up going on the right hand side of the photo, just below the little floral cluster that I'm creating now. Now this collection came with, I believe it also came with a set of vellum embellishments. So from that set of vellum embellishments, I have pulled a couple of foliage pieces out, and I'm just going to tuck those in behind the clusters. It's a really soft and subtle addition, and just absolutely perfect for this kind of layout. Now, if you can hear some little voices, I am sitting in my study, and my children know that I'm in here recording a voiceover at the moment, so they are calling out to me trying to get in. So if you hear their little voices, that's what's going on. So you did see me bring in that label with the date on it once again. I also have a flare button, which I've added to the bottom left cluster. And I wanted to bring in a couple of these word phrase stickers. So I do squeeze two of them in here to the bottom left of the photo. One says beautiful you, and the other says so special. And I'm just going to trim those down so that I can tuck them in underneath that that flare badge, or the flare button there. And I think that will just about do it for my embellishing. It's just getting that label on, and there, that's where it's going to settle. So as I was working, I was thinking about those tiny little butterflies that I'd scattered around the layout and what I wanted to do with them, whether I wanted to leave them flying free, but I thought that because I had added the stitched trails to the larger ones, it might look a little funny if the smaller ones didn't have trails either. But just for something a little bit different, I have grabbed a grey Artline fine liner pen, and I am adding these little butterfly trails using that grey pen, just for something a little bit different and a little bit of extra visual interest. And that's it. That is this layout. It's so soft, it's so pretty. I'm so in love with it. It's definitely going to be a favorite layout, I think. And yeah, so easy to create with these Fab Foils. I definitely suggest giving them a go if you like that kind of product. If you are new to my channel, I would love for you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button so that you can join me here with all of my upcoming videos. Of course, if you have been with me for some time, thank you so much for all of your support. It really does mean so much to me. But with that, we'll leave it there, and I will say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.